Hey there, before we jump into today's show, this episode is brought to you by Gladly, and I've got to tell you, they're changing the game when it comes to customer service. Now, if you try dealing with duplicate tickets or fragmented conversations across all your channels, you'll love what Gladly does. They really bring everything all together. Think chat, email, phone, social media, everything all together in one seamless conversation that really is centered more around the customer and not just a ticket number. And what really caught my eye when I read some of the case studies on their website was just how many of the best direct-to-consumer brands, think like Allbirds and Bombas, Rockies, Third Love, there's a whole pile of them here, they're all using Gladly's platform to boost their agents' productivity. And imagine your team having a complete view of each customer's history, which means faster resolutions and happier customers who keep coming back. And I've seen the numbers. I know their clients are getting incredible ROI while building stronger customer relationships. So if you're ready to transform your operations, you should go totally check them out. They're at gladly.com, and you can join over 300 of the world's most successful brands.
You're listening to E-commerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company, powered by Shopify. Listen to real conversations with partners and subject matter experts as they share proven practical strategies, platforms, and the best Shopify apps to help you accelerate your business. The time is now for you to improve efficiencies, grow revenue, profit, and lifetime customer loyalty. Please welcome your host, startup founder and strategic advisor, Steve Hutt.
Well, hey there, welcome back to E-commerce Fastlane. I am your host, Steve Hutt, and today we're going to talk about I'm going to call it the margin crunch, but there's a lot going on right now. Not just the competitiveness of e-commerce, just from other competitors selling, similar products or in the same category, but I think there is other kind of what I would call sneaky profit killers in e-commerce, and I would call it its shipping costs. I think it's creeping up faster than maybe coffee prices. It seems that FedEx and UPS, they keep hiking all of their rates. They're doing it again now in 2025. But I have an amazing guest that is killing it and really helping direct-to-consumer brands. They love Shopify brands. They like helping them figure out where all of these issues are happening with these increased costs. Are there any fees and different things that are kind of creeping into the overall net cost, to a brand? And so this fellow's name is Michael Moriarty. He comes from a company called Schooley Mitchell. So it's SCHOOLEY, SchooleyMitchell.com. It's interesting what they do. Michael and his team, they've helped, but over 40,000 businesses have saved over $1 billion. And that's a billion with a B, believe it or not. They really understand all the carriers and the contracts, and they really try to figure out how can they slash these kind of unnecessary fees. And it doesn't matter about the shipping, though. If you're doing 50 packages a month or 50,000 a month, I guarantee today's episode is really going to help you understand, maybe hopefully some actual takeaways about how can you actually keep more revenue in your pocket. So, hi, Michael. Welcome again to E-commerce Fastlane.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me. I'm a long-time listener of the program, so it's exciting to be on with you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And once again, anytime that there is an opportunity to teach people about, hey, other than your product market fit and how a brand kind of, prices their product in the market, they have their own wholesale costs. There's lots of other things that go along with kind of a net cost and then figuring what the retail price is. But there's also these underlying kind of costs, the cost of the box, the cost of the shipping, the fulfillment cost. There's all these different costs that kind of creep into the net margin. I think a lot of brands understand that, but they don't really understand that there is some power available and there's some technology and some human capital through your company that actually helps understand where they fit as it relates to the cost of shipping. So can you explain a little bit about just the Schooley Mitchell company as a whole, and then the division that you kind of are strategic partners in as it relates to shipping and shipping cost reductions?
What you said is right. Most brands are going to be hyper-focused on, their cost of goods, and packaging and some of those things you mentioned are going to likely be included there. But one place where we see a lot of profit escape is below that gross margin line. So that's really where Schooley Mitchell comes in. We help businesses of all sizes, but I'm very much focused on e-commerce brands minimize their expense below that gross margin line, and shipping is a big part of it. So that's what we do. We don't represent any shipping company or brand. We don't sell any particular product. We just work on our clients' behalf to make sure that they're in the best possible contract, that they're getting the highest discounts possible given their volume. But before we really get in and do negotiation for brands, we suck in there all of their past invoices. We look for errors and overages, places maybe where they're not getting or seeking credits. Just try to get a real picture of their overall shipping environment to assess, where's their opportunity to find savings. And then, we dive in with them and become a partner with them to manage the expense over time.
Very cool. I know I had a previous partner on, and they were talking about the terms of service as it relates to shipping. I do want to get into the specifics of Shopify versus 3PLs and wholly owned warehouses and your own account. And there's so many different shipping options for different people that are listening today. They just based on their complexity or their maturity in e-commerce, they'll fit somewhere in a different bucket. But one bucket I found quite interesting was this terms of service that each the carriers have. I'd find so many times brands didn't realize that they actually deserve to have credit back because, let's say they had a certain 2-day shipping option that got there in 3 days. Even though they paid for the invoice, the FedEx and UPS of the world didn't fulfill the order in time. And because of that, there is a window of opportunity and potentially a process of how do we know if these all arrived on time? And is there technology or people or your organization? I don't even know, but it's so interesting that I think there's the first part, there's money left on the table every single month just in the outbound packages that you're shipping because the terms of service weren't met by the carrier. Do you have much comments on that at all?
Yeah, we're getting right into some of the nitty gritty, but absolutely. Yeah. So for listeners, the acronym here is GSR, and it stands for Guaranteed Service Refunds. So when looking at your invoices, you want to look for or listen for, if you're talking to a rep or anyone else, is GSR. And so for FedEx and UPS, the services that are eligible for refunds are really, like you said, the overnight, priority overnight, with FedEx, Express Saver, 2-day. With UPS, it's next day air or second day air. So those really time sensitive deliveries, if they're even a minute late, you are eligible for complete refund. The carriers won't let you know that they were a minute late. You really have to kind of track that yourselves or work with someone like Schooley Mitchell. That's exactly what we do. We look at invoices for our clients monthly and look for those packages that were late, and then we seek credits on their behalf. But you don't need to work with a third party to do that. If you have the time and the inclination, you could look for it. And some brands, we work with. I've got some clients who ship almost, food in particular, chocolate or a couple produce. People who do almost exclusively, they're shipping within 72 hours. So it's a hyper focus for them. But, you might have some others that, hey, look, I need a part. I need, I went to assemble the product and I need this, sent to me right away. So it's used less frequently. So in some ways, you just want to note when you're using those services. And then if you can find the time to see if they were delivered on time or not. And if not, go ahead and seek credits.
Right. I'd also argue there's some people that are listening today that are kind of, like I said, in different complexities and maturities, meaning some people are using the shipping solution that's kind of baggy Shopify, which is Shopify shipping. Shopify is kind of negotiated. They're likely making a small percentage points for allowing brands to fulfill orders directly from the admin and create labels. So there's those shipping people, which we'll talk about them in a minute. And then there's also people that have decided to own their own account. They feel that they've negotiated a better rate than what Shopify is offering. And once again, they're still fulfilling from their own garage or their own warehouse. So there's that option, Shopify shipping or your own account. But then the other option that's out there, which I think is maybe a growing amount, are 3PLs that use these kind of clubbed accounts where they have a primary account and then a lot of sub accounts under that. And then their pitch to people is to come to their 3PL is, hey, we're going to host your product. You don't have to be an expert in warehouse fulfillment. Let us take care of that. You can focus on building your business. But also the benefit of moving to us is, hey, you get the combined energies of all of these accounts and all the shipping of players likely much larger than you, but you all get to kind of share in the overall negotiation and the total volume that's being processed through that particular 3PL. So I just want to hear your feelings about, the Shopify shipping, wholly owned on your own account, and then what happens when you migrate to a 3PL? Do all of these different types of shipping processes, does Schooley Mitchell have the option to really help each of these types of people?
Yeah, we do. And I would say there's a progression, right? It depends, a business that's just getting started, they probably want to stay with it, and they're on Shopify. They want to stay within that structure and leverage some of that volume that makes sense. And then we see clients that then go to 3PL typically, and not always. It really depends on the mix and what services you're using and your volume, but it then likely makes sense to go ahead and leverage the 3PL's account. At a certain point, you probably grow from that, and you could likely get better rates for your specific services, right? It really depends on the business. And so the 3PL might not have the best rates for the services you're using most frequently. And that's one thing that we help clients do. We help sort of navigate, where should I be? Should I stick with the Shopify platform for my shipping? Should I leverage my 3PL, or should we go ahead and do our own? And then you have ShipStations and Shippo, and you could ship on their account. So there's a lot to navigate and figure out. And we help clients sort of navigate those environments. And typically though, and this is very general, but as you grow and you've got some scale, you're most likely to get the best discounting when you're shipping on your own account, because then you can leverage that particular volume for the services you're using to get the best discounts, the lowest surcharges that you can for what you use. You get a rep assigned that gives you some more leverage. And it's very transparent what your fees are. A lot of time when you're on someone else's account, I see an aggregate, well, all my fees I'm paying, but I don't know exactly the detail. That's the detail that we want to attack, right?
Yeah,
so we can get the best discounts.
So, when I was digging deeper into this kind of conversation, I noticed things about like surcharges and I call like these hidden fees and things that happen. But so like kind of beyond the kind of the, like these basic rates, like are there any kind of common surcharges that you see that maybe inflate shipping costs? Like, I mean, I one thing that comes up all the time is kind of strange to me, but this residential surcharge, like for home deliveries, like you think they all go to home, but in any case, but there are a lot of major surcharges. Can you talk a little bit about maybe a few different ones that kind of cross your desk, and how you're able to help people kind of reduce these?
Yeah. Hey, let's start at the top for the listeners, because everything starts with rates. And so UPS and FedEx, they publish rates, and that's not negotiable for anyone. In 2025, the rates went up 5.9%. It was the same in 2024. Those go up. Nobody can negotiate those. So rates are rates. Then below rates are your discounts. And the first one is what's called dim weight. So the packages that people are shipping, they have a particular formula. It's the length times the width times the height divided by this dim divisor, this arbitrary number. And if you and I, Steve, were off the street, our dim divisor would be 139. The higher the dim divisor, I'm getting a little too technical, but that's the first kind of rate that we want to attack, is that dim divisor. And if you're paying 139, you're getting the absolute lowest discount on how your packages are measured. And so the higher that number, the lower your dim divisor. Below that are some of the surcharges. So if you're shipping to a residence, it's called a residential surcharge. Then there are rural surcharges, which are typically called delivery area surcharge. If you are shipping large or heavy packages, there's additional handling fees. And then there are peak surcharges. So throughout the year, there's just arbitrary surcharges that are added depending on demand. It used to be that was really only during Q4 and during Christmas. Now we see that those peak surcharges never go back to zero. They just spike during Q4 and then come back down. So all those things, all the surcharges, all the fees, and the dim divisors, those are all negotiable. The final one is a fuel surcharge. So after all those surcharges and fees are assessed, then there is a fuel surcharge. So the lower you get the other surcharges down, the lower your fuel will be.
I see. I also noticed there's an address correction fee. When I used to work at Shopify, it was one of the things I was telling people. I said, you got to add like an address verification tool, like more outside than just Google's autocomplete or Google's auto address correction tool. There's other ones out there that offer a great service is saying, are you sure this is your address? Because we believe this is the correct address. It's almost worth investing in a little piece of technology to double check with the client, the customer, to make sure that the address is kind of in the format that makes sense so that in the future, you don't hit a surcharge of address correction fee.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why when we work with clients, we pull in their past invoices. We look to see where are you getting hit with fees? And then, because to your point, if it's something we see over and over again, there's usually technology that can help solve for it. It's address correction, or, you might have a package that overweights or over dims. It's too large. Sometimes even like you put too much packing material in it, it'll just bulge out a little bit and that'll push you into some different dimension. We could spot that type of thing in your past invoices and just try to advise us to how to minimize that type of thing.
Oh, very cool. I used to, looking at the site, there's quite a few case studies of Shopify-powered businesses that have saved quite a bit of money by doing, I guess, the initial audit, and then you have like an ongoing, I guess, contract to really help people. I get to call it ongoing monitoring, I guess, really after you kind of implement your system, just to make sure that, that the expenses are at the lowest possible price, and so that, you can catch billing errors and all the different things that you guys do. Is there anybody of note that you can think of, even if anecdotally or specifically, if you can call anybody out and saying, hey, this business, here's their life before Schooley Mitchell, and here's what we found with them in their particular use case, and then how we're able to help them moving forward?
Yeah, well, I kind of hate to call out some clients without their permission, but we certainly work with a lot of D2C clients, and, we typically negotiate best discounts and get them in the right contract. But to your point, in terms of like over time, what we typically work with clients, it's like a 3-year partnership. And so this is a pretty dynamic market. So for one, we're just on top of the market and we're making sure that the client is with the right carrier, or we're working the carriers off one another constantly to make sure that they're getting the best pricing and the best service at any one time. But we also have a post-audit team. So we're looking for those errors, overages, we're seeking credits on their behalf. And, it's typically about 16% of invoices have some kind of error in them. So on average, through our negotiations, we're saving people about 28%, but then the ongoing auditing is saving them even more month over month.
I see. And so you guys actually do vendor negotiations and stuff? Like once you look at, this is what, as you said, when a brand really matures up, they should own their own account, and then they get an account executive, and then it seems like you're closer to the fold, so to speak, than kind of a black box of a shared account. So do you find that once a brand has matured to that level, do you have like the resources to say, hey, we're saving money on all of these ongoing monthly, but also we feel that based on our experience that we can negotiate on your behalf for your account? I just want to hear if that's kind of something that you offer.
Yeah, well, absolutely. That's what we do. I mean, as you mentioned at the top, we've worked with 40,000 businesses. So it's not so much that we're negotiating and beating people up. It's just that we know the right questions to ask, right? So if you and I had a business and we're shipping out of Vancouver and we're shipping this particular size package at this particular volume, then we know based on other similar businesses with similar volume. We know what they're paying with each carrier. So we're just able to ask very specific question, right? Hey, this particular DIM device or for this particular service, why are you only offering a 60% discount when over here you've offered an 80% discount? Can you just tell us, And so we just get them to turn some cards over in a way that individual businesses can't, just because if you and I are running a business, we all know what we're paying, right? What discounts are we getting? We might shop it around a little bit, but with Schooley Mitchell, we just have so much data that we're able to just really find very specific things in pricing agreements to ask on. That's really what drives the savings. So it is negotiation, but it's really just leveraging our data. And in a sense, our clients get to leverage our scale and buying power and data. And that's how we're able to get much better pricing agreements for them.
Very cool. How does Schooley Mitchell's, I could call it a contingency billing model, because clients clearly stay on because the savings is there. Like, how do you price the service that we'll offer? Obviously, net, it's a massive savings for the business, but I'm just curious in kind of how you guys price the work effort that you're actually doing.
Yeah, so this is what clients love most about working with us. We're 100% performance-based. So if we come into a business, we'll do the analysis that we discussed earlier. And 80% of the times we find savings, but sometimes it's just not the right time. It might be under contract, or to some of our earlier discussion, right? Maybe it does make sense given where you're at to stay with your 3PL, and there's no fee at all for that, for the initial assessment. We'll keep in touch and, advise you and say, hey, when your business gets to this point, let's talk again. But there's absolutely no fees. All of our fees are covered by the savings that we earn for customers, and it's always on actual. So we'll implement a new pricing structure. Typically, the client will enjoy those savings for a quarter. We get back together, we review, hey, what were your actual savings? Were they what we thought they would be? Most of the time, the answer is yes. And then we give them an invoice for half the saving. So we split in the savings that we earn for our customers. That includes all credits and everything we seek on their behalf.
So it's very risk-free then for clients, because it seems like your fee is almost like self-funded from the percentage of savings.
It's 100% self-funded, yeah. There's no way working with us, we can't improve your bottom line. Now, again, we might come back and say, hey, you know what? You got a great pricing structure here. I wouldn't touch it. And in that case, you learned something. But there's no fee. The only thing you would have spent is a bit of time upfront with us.
What I love the most too about all this is just kind of after that initial kind of implementation, and then there's going to be, in most cases, a large cost savings for sure right away of the terms and service of this GSR kind of like audit that you're talking about, to see what refunds are due based on the level of service for each label. So there's going to be a chunk of money there, and then, other different, fees and hidden things that have crept in. But it just seems that, I think it's the ongoing monitoring of the account after implementation, I think, is really interesting, because it's not like I think brand founders, they're really involved in product and customer service and building their business. And sometimes they lose track of these different fees that can start creeping in, and all of a sudden you don't realize this is up 25 cents or this is now 75 cents more because now we're doing this. And I think that's the difference though with Schooley Mitchell, is that if they're monitoring the account, you guys can really help prevent a lot of this cost creep, and help catch some of these billing errors and things like that. So it's pretty exciting.
It is. And, I think you hit the nail there, because, most people listening, they probably don't lose sleep over, am I paying too much for my shipping? They might wonder, but I don't think they lose sleep. They're worried about the top line. They're worried about innovation. They're worried about retaining their best talent. And what we really like to think of is, hey, look, we're going to come in, we'll save you money, but we want to give you peace of mind. Then that part of your P&L, you're good. You are completely optimized, and we've got this. We're going to save you time. If you've got an issue with one of your vendors, we'll call them for you. We're on top of this for you. Go worry about your other big problems. Go drive your top line. Make sure you're hiring the best people. So that's really how we like to think of the partnerships we have our client, is that they give us trust to manage this based on our pricing model. We each have very much shared, incentive to get them the best pricing, but go focus somewhere else. We've got this for you. And that's where we drive the most value.
Yeah, I love it. We're almost ready to wrap up for today, but I know we had a nice chit chat kind of in the green room before recording, and you had a great idea about maybe offering our listeners maybe almost like a free shipping kind of cost analysis. Can you share some details about that and kind of what the next steps you believe for those that are listening today?
Yeah, well, I guess I could offer two things. I mean, anyone that wants to talk to me, they can get in touch with me and I'll do a complete analysis of their business. But if other people are listening and say, hey, based on what I heard, I don't think I'm quite ready for a specialized analysis of my particular business, but I want to learn more about shipping. I put together a little ebook that just kind of defines some of the things that we talked about. I'm happy to share that with anybody who reaches out. So just a nice little education piece so that they can manage their own shipping or kind of navigate how to use what, when, and what to look for in their invoices. I'm happy to share that as well.
Okay, lovely. I'll have that all in the show notes. So I do have a couple links that'll be there. We will have SchooleyMitchell.com/fastlane. So Schooley's SCHOOLEY and then Mitchell.com/fastlane. That redirects to your landing page that I can see here. So yeah, so everything's there, how to contact Michael directly, phone and email and details are all there. So, and then we should put a link to the ebook also in our show notes so that people can kind of get access to that and downloading it. So I think this has been a great conversation, and any kind of parting words for those listening, and kind of just want to make sure that we hit the nail on the head to say, hey, like, is there opportunity here for cost savings as it relates to shipping? Any kind of things you want to chat just before we go?
I think we covered it pretty well. It just would say, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, or if you want to learn more and get the ebook, please find it in the show notes.
Lovely, lovely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for recording today. I love the opportunity to directly save people money. A lot of times there's like different tools and software and platforms that are a little bit capital heavy, and sometimes are even human capital heavy too, where there's a learning curve where this is not the case with your team and through Schooley Mitchell and stuff like that, you really have a solution that's set up right now that really cost no money, and it's self-funded based on just saving money for either in the fees, the shipping, dim weights, all the dim divisor, all these things are all done by your business and your team. So I think it's fabulous that you guys are able to save people some money. And so once again, my recommendation is that, if you're shipping a couple hundred packages a month or more, you should probably reach out and then at least have them have a look. And then it's just savings are savings, right?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Steve.
Oh, my pleasure. Have yourself a great afternoon.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you personally for being a loyal listener of E-commerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company powered by Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.